To get started, I'd like to introduce to you Fabian Fabiani, who we're delighted has joined us today. He is going to talk to us about character and well-being, and we're thrilled to hear what he's got to say. Thank you, Fabian.
It's a real privilege to be able to talk to you today about character and well-being. So I thought it'd be really worthwhile me just explaining a little bit about my journey and the context in which I've been working in for the last 5 years. So for the last 5 years, I've been significantly involved in developing character education and well-being within the United Kingdom and the education system. By doing so, I've worked with various organisations ranging from Ofsted, which is our main regulator, advising them on character education policy, working with hundreds of teachers, hundreds of school leaders, and scores of schools up and down the country, as well as internationally, and also working with brilliant organisations and startups such as Amazing People Schools, who look to take the theory of character education and provide resources within schools that can lead to tangible outcomes. So what is character education? Essentially, character education is an enabler. It is not an abstract theoretical idea. It's a methodology of empowering young people to be the change they want to see in the world and a change they want to see in their own world. It's an equalizer. I see it as a way of levelling up the education system in the UK and fueling social mobility. So character education is about providing curricular and extracurricular opportunities such as leadership programs, character and wellbeing lessons that provide students with a toolkit that they can build upon and develop a greater sense of confidence, of resilience, of compassion, of care, of self and sustainable leadership. Now, resilience is often spoken about within character education and wellbeing. It's very important, but I do want to kind of add a word of warning with this. Resilience is something that, yes, is important, but you can, for example, have a very resilient criminal. Resilience on its own isn't something we should just seek to develop. We need to combine resilience with a strong sense of empathy and ability to care and help other people. Now, the dynamic between character education and well-being is one that should be united. It isn't a case of you can have one or the other. Delivering workshops and talks and training, understandably, there are people who are kind of on their own journey with this and slightly late to adopting it. But one of the main points that is put forward is you can either have one or the other. You can't have both. We don't have time for this. That is absolute balderdash. It's false. It's a false dichotomy. A great education is one that develops character and well-being together. So well-being really is the foundation upon which a student's confidence and character can be built. So if we take our own lives, we know that we thrive and flourish when we are either in the positive numbers of well-being or kind of at a level of zero. If we're in the negative numbers, it's much harder for us on a day-to-day basis to learn and develop and grow. So having a sound level of well-being, which is difficult to develop in itself, is the only way you can develop a sense of character and empowerment. At the same time, going through really difficult times as we are right now, we will find that ourselves and students are developing their character. The narrative is very negative at times, and it's looking at what are students missing out on. I think we need to flip this, and we need to look at it in terms of what are students gaining through this experience. Obviously, we can't ignore the traumas that individuals will be going through, and actually schools are there to help, but fundamentally that also needs support from healthcare systems and so on. If we're taking kind of the scenarios schools usually find themselves in, we need to flip this and look at the opportunities that students can gain from developing their character during difficult times, and actually signposting that for students and making students aware that actually life is difficult and challenging. And at the same time, there'll be days where we just need to survive, and there are days upon which we can thrive. Now, that dynamic between character and well-being is fundamental to students discovering that, and actually us as educators making it clear to students and using the benefit of hindsight that we have from our own lives to further awaken and enlighten students as to the dynamic between character and well-being. I have kept this brief. I am more than happy to be contacted. A lot of my role involves working with different partners, so please reach out to me via Twitter.
Thank you so much, Fabian. That was really interesting. I loved what you said about a great education is one with character and well-being working together. Thank you for that. I think it's also interesting to think about well-being being the foundation on which character can be built, but also by developing character strengths such as optimism, gratitude, resilience, perseverance. We're also helping to support our mental health and support our well-being. So it's really interesting the way that the character and well-being weave through each other. Thank you again.
So I'm going to move on to show you about our wellbeing workouts. And our wellbeing workouts are designed to look at either character strengths and a variety of amazing people who demonstrated those character strengths, or an individual character. So I'm going to show you the gratitude one. These ones have been really, really helpful during different stages of the past year, when some students have been working from home and some have been in school, and families have wanted to get involved, and mental health and wellbeing have been absolutely at the forefront of everybody's mind. And gratitude is one of the ways that, when developed, can help to support our well-being and our mental health. Being aware of and grateful for who and what we do have in our lives can help our well-being. And it links very much to other character strengths such as optimism and resilience. This workout looks at gratitude. We're very keen to stress that it's okay to not be okay. Practicing gratitude doesn't mean that you have to be happy whatever what. But it's all about developing a powerful mindset and developing those tools that can help you to cope through the difficult times. So we have a variety of people here who demonstrated gratitude in their lives. Ibn Battuta, the medieval traveller; Helen Keller, the advocate for people with disabilities; Alfred Nobel, founder of the Nobel Prizes; Louis Armstrong, the jazz musician; Florence Nightingale, the lady with a lamp; and William Shakespeare. And so we use these different characters to look into their stories and explore the role of gratitude in their stories. And then we have a variety of exercises and activities that students can do at home or on their own or with some friends that can all help them to develop gratitude. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Martin Luther King, Jr. We very much believe you can't be it if you can't see it. And our stories of diverse historical game changers are really designed to support students in that learning and to put those character strengths into action. So we have a wide range of characters. We have amazing Black lives: Mary Seacole, Abebe Bikila, Harriet Tubman. We have quite a global collection, including Wang Zhenyi from China, Simon Bolivar from Latin America, Zumbi dos Palmares. We also have people with disabilities, either through accident or from birth: Frida Kahlo, Helen Keller, Thomas Edison. We have people with different sexual orientations: Alan Turing, Frida Kahlo, Leonardo da Vinci.
We also have people with different privileges, be it white privilege, economic privilege, and those who were born into poverty without so many privileges. Really a wide range of people.
I'm just going to focus on Harriet Tubman. So students can watch a short video, or you could use it as a starter to your lesson. Videos are usually less than 5 minutes, or you can do it as a flipped learning to a class as well, to say homework is to watch the video. We have an audio version of the story for those that might find the written version more challenging, and we have a timeline.
The timelines are designed to both look at the key dates in the amazing person's life, but also to look at world history and what else was happening at that point.
We have a written story, and then when the students have explored the character thoroughly, they have a quiz, and they need to get 5 out of 5 on the quiz to unlock an amazing person fact card.
And also a wardrobe item. This wardrobe item goes on to them decorating their own avatar. If they don't get 5 out of 5, it's not a problem. They just go back and read the story again. They can take the quiz as many times as they would like to. Other resources that we have that help us to embed diverse role models into our school day are our LGBT plus resource and our Black Lives resource. Our LGBT plus resource looks at examples of people such as Alan Turing, Frida Kahlo, Leonardo da Vinci, and also some modern day pioneers that are from the LGBT plus community. Our Global Black Achievers resource not only allows us to look into the lives of these amazing people from around the world, but also to look at character, to look at fairness, for example, when we think about the language of fairness when discussing race and racism. It can be hard. These activities are important, finding out what anti-racism means, ally, privilege, activism, bias.
So one of the ways that are most important for us to embed character across schools and to really explain the importance of what character strengths mean and how they relate to wellbeing are through assemblies and through a whole school top-down approach. Different assemblies are on different character strengths, and they each use an amazing person from history to sort of make the point about that character strength. So I'm just going to quickly show you an assembly that we have on courage. This is the life of Marie Curie, and we're going to look at courage. So the assemblies start with a short explanation of the amazing person, and so you can quickly get rooted into who we're talking about. A little bit of explanation. There is then a screen which is basically like you can pause, change, do what your school needs to do. Bring in your individual slides at this point. It's a bit of PowerPoint, you can change them. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. So a really interesting quote there from Marie Curie on courage and about encouraging more understanding on several things. So there are different questions on courage, how we think about courage and how courage is defined in schools, in life, and how we can express courage in different ways. What do we mean by courage? Is it the shy student who puts their hands up? Is it somebody who stands up for somebody who's being bullied or excluded? Is it the person who's really good at sports, but actually quite fancies having a go at the school play as well? And some schools have found it useful to run a competition around a given character strength so that students can really focus their minds over the week on what they mean by that character strength.
We have amazing people assemblies once every week where a teacher explains an amazing person, goes through their history, the characteristics they showed.
There is now an increasing belief and evidence that Einstein actually grew parts of his brain through thousands of hours of deliberate practice.
Amazing People assemblies are inspiring because it shows us that we could do what they're doing and how to do it in the same way that they did it.
With effort and deliberate practice, you can be exceptional, or even more exceptional.
I find it very inspiring actually, because they're not that different from us. There's nothing stopping me from becoming them as well.
You have to make a conscious decision today to deliberately grow your brain and embrace those challenges.
The other time in the day that's really useful to discuss character strengths are in those short times of the day that we have just as a class. So we might call it form time, it might be circle time, tutor time, and times of the day where you have your class, it's away from the main curriculum and it's an opportunity to use discussion and reflection to think about something that isn't part of the regular curriculum. So one of these slots could be used to think about empathy, to think about that through exploring the life of Mahatma Gandhi. So again, we have a little bit of an explanation as to who Gandhi was, what he did, and we can have really quite a quick, simple conversation about the sort of diet he had, what he did in India, the sort of clothes that he wore. And then we can be thinking, even from that quite short and small amount of information, well, what does that teach us about empathy? And who was he thinking about when he decided to live in the way that he did? And then we turn it to our own lives and thinking about empathy. How can we see the world from someone else's perspective? And what can we do to understand their feelings? And one thing that we can do is to read faces and learn about the clues that different expressions are telling us about how somebody else is feeling. So we finish this with a short game of charades. These can be cut up and handed out, and the students need to act out these different feelings and see whether the class can work out how they're feeling. So to say, a short way of discussing empathy and about getting them to think about how somebody else is feeling and how they might know that and how they might develop those skills.
I'd like now to introduce Margaret Vateng. She's a senior leader in a primary school in London.
So we focus on an amazing person each day. And what we do is we watch a video or listen to the story. And once they've finished that, I get them we have a bit of thinking time. So a bit of thinking and a bit of sharing. And I get them to share any facts that they've learned whilst watching the video about the amazing person. So we do that first. So at the end of the week, we talk about the traits, or which ones have they tried to work on, which ones have they noticed in a friend. Because we share them, they're able to hear others. And they ask me as well, actually, Miss Barton, which ones have you worked on this week? So we're all in it together. We're all developing, because it's lifelong learning. I'm not going to become resilient and stop. There are lots of other traits that I'm trying to work on. And that's that, really. So at the end of the week, everybody's able to talk about these traits, use the language as well, actually, which is quite empowering. Use the language and think about what they need to work on for themselves, not just now, but forever as we grow. I also use it in circle time. So we do circle time on a Friday, and we do a lot of work on self-affirmation. So we've talked about the importance of that. We've talked about our inner coach and our inner critic, and the fact that the inner coach needs to be a lot louder than the inner critic. We say we get the pom-poms out for the inner coach, and I get them to self-affirm, I am resilient, or I am becoming resilient. So we're not there yet, but we're working towards doing that. So that's how we've been using it.
Thank you, Margaret. That was so interesting to hear practically how you're using Amazing People Schools with your class. So interesting also to think of from the nub of an idea of talking about an amazing person and learning about that person, to thinking about their character strengths, to thinking about how developing those character strengths can help us all develop our character and support our well-being. Really interesting. Thank you so much.
Amazing People Schools is used in a very wide variety of schools. We work with primary schools, secondary schools, state schools, fee-paying schools. We also work with people who are educating at home and educational settings for those with additional needs.
I'd like to introduce you to Pete Noble. Pete is a governor and a teacher in America, and he's been using Amazing People Schools in the past year with his daughters while educating them at home. Thank you, Pete.
In a period of remote learning for us, it has been invaluable, and I feel fortunate to have discovered Amazing People Schools because of the fact that it is a curriculum, what I consider a curriculum and a program that is relatively easy to practice regularly, and it's done in a way that engages our three girls who happen to be 11, 9, and 7. So they always find of interest when I include Amazing People Schools in our remote learning. Personally, what I find of greatest value is the fact that, it's critical that we develop character. And it's something that I don't think is done perhaps necessarily deliberately or thoughtfully. And the fact that Amazing People Schools is doing it in a way that meets kids in a place that they are and educates them on inspirational characters and people that have come before us. They get to stand on the shoulders of giants and kind of learn a little bit about character traits, including, something like persistence. So and the greater benefit, the greatest benefit perhaps for us doing it remotely also is the fact that we get to do it as a group. So it's not just any one of them doing it individually in their school. It's our three girls and myself. We will review a character. It might be somebody like Marie Curie, right? What a great person to learn from and about. And once we're done in the session in Amazing People Schools on Marie Curie, we will turn and all of us will create a haiku, which is, of course, a Japanese form of poetry of 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. Now they're taking what they've learned and creating personal meaning from it. And by the way, learning a bunch of invaluable skills in terms of synthesizing ideas and spelling. So it's really been, a boost to something that I feel strongly about in terms of how we develop character. We viewed a lesson on Marie Curie, and then it was perhaps a month later that one of our daughters had come to me out of the blue with a drawing of Marie Curie and some of the learning that she had gotten out of it. And number one, I was so pleased and surprised. And I just like, man alive, that's amazing that out of the blue from a lesson a month ago, she came up with this inspired artwork. We can't underestimate, the 5 minutes that was spent on Marie and kind of how it captured and ignited her imagination.
Thank you so much for that, Pete. Delighted that you were able to share your daughter's haikus and pictures. Really interesting. And very interesting just to think about how flexible and adaptable Amazing People Schools can be, whether it's delivering assemblies or whether it's discussing character strengths and amazing people on a one-to-one basis. Really interesting to hear your thoughts. Thank you for that.
3 takeaways that I would like to leave you with. One is the importance of character and well-being and how developing character strengths can support well-being. The other is about diversity and bringing in diverse role models across the school curriculum and into different subjects. And finally, it's about the language of character and really taking the time to explicitly explain the language of character and the vocabulary around character strength so that students can articulate not only their feelings, but the challenges that they're facing and which character strengths they need to really draw on to make the right decisions for them. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that has been interesting and enjoyable. Look forward to hearing your questions in the Q&A session.
Thank you also to our 3 guests. We really appreciated your contributions to the discussion. Anybody who'd be interested in exploring the Amazing People Schools site is welcome to do so. There's free access available. If you go to www.amazingpeopleschools.com, fill in the form with your name and school, we can send you your login details and you can see whether we can help add value to your school to help develop a character education programme there.